Hello and welcome to this episode of the Fire Connect podcast. My name is David Cuerpo, Public Information Officer with the Seattle Fire Department, and we're going to talk about conquering the Seattle Fire Department's recruit school. The training our recruits undergo to become prepared for this job is both physically and mentally challenging. And if everyone can introduce themselves, starting with yourself.
Hi, I'm Firefighter Brandi Rogers. I work at Station 25.
Yep, and I am Lieutenant Edwin Burgado, and I'm here currently at the training department.
And I'm Captain Jorge Bernal, and I'm assigned to Recruit Training Coordinator here at Training Division.
Captain Bernal, can you give us an overview of the recruit school?
So recruit training spans 16 weeks. We typically start on a Wednesday, which is the half week. That's a good time for the recruits to get oriented with the facilities and their equipment and layout of our expectations. And then right after that, we jump into our training, which spans, which has been dubbed the grind, which is 8 weeks. The first portion of the grind is first week from 1 to 4. That's basic skills. And then week 5, we go into North Bend, which we expose new recruits to live fire training, let them experience the gear and heat and fire, and get them comfortable with the equipment and how it operates. And then after that, we'll go into weeks 6, 7, and 8, which is the advanced skills of the grind. Following the grind, in week 9, they'll do their IVSAC Firefighter 1 certification with the state. After that, they complete that, they'll be Fire 1 certified, which it's a requirement for them to be out in operations on the rigs. And the rest of the training, the rest of recruit training comprise of advanced skills, MCOs, and meeting up with technical rescue team to get exposure there. Also, within that time scale, we'll go to North Bend, where we'll do MCOs, multi-company operations. And once again, those are live fire evolutions, followed by acquired structures. We'll find a vacant structure in the city limits and retrofit it to take on multiple burn evolutions, where the recruits can now put together all the skills they've learned from week 1 up to week 12, depending on when that happens, and do their final evaluation whether they can actually deploy hose and put out a fire that we've constructed in a real life Seattle Fire Department house or City of Seattle house.
Lieutenant Burgado and also Captain Bernal, is that something that is new, or did that happen also when you went through Recruit Academy? The live fire part of it in terms of people's houses or vacant buildings.
Yeah, so historically, that's one of the things that sets City of Seattle apart, that we make a defined role and goal of training division, especially in recruit training, to find and acquire structure. So that way, the recruits have the opportunity to actually stretch lines on real streets from real hydrants and deal with the confines of a real life neighborhood. I've been in for 18 years, and that's the way that we've done it since I've been in. And I don't know what else you have to
been the same. I mean, Seattle's historically always had some building or some house that they go to and practice live fire training. I mean, it's the best training they're going to get. Versus out in the electrical court where everything's pre-planned. So
like a North Bend for the Fire Training Academy, like how does that differ for doing live fire there compared to in a house?
Well, I mean, at a house you're going to be dealing, with exterior, issues, bushes, trees, cars parked on the side of the road. We always try to get people to move them out of the way. That doesn't always happen. We work around other fire engines, people running around. Everyone's got a different job to do, so there's a lot of activity going on. And when we're able to do that in a real live building, so to speak, it does give you a pretty good idea of what it actually is like versus places like North Bend or even our own buildings here, which we don't do live fire, but we do smoke them up and stuff. The buildings are there. We know where everything's at. We know where the hydrants are at. We know where the rooms are at. We don't necessarily get that with the live fire training. It's zero visibility. You get to feel some heat. a lot of smoke around you. So it's the best thing you're going to get in terms of real world.
Gotcha. Now, we say that the Seattle Fire Department is a paramilitary organization. What does that look like when in recruit school?
So besides paramilitary, our ranking structure is top down, and what that means is we're given orders and we follow orders, right? The only two caveats that I always tell people is if it's a safety issue, or something that you know is incorrect, right? If your boss tells you to do something, you have to accomplish that goal. We're a mission-driven organization, and that is everything we do is for a purpose. We get to whatever scene it may be, we have a mission to accomplish, and if our superiors, higher rank, tells us, hey, this is how we're going to accomplish this, we're going to turn around and do it that way because there's a plan in place. We can't have too much independent thinking, so to speak, because otherwise things tend to fall apart. Everyone has to be on the same page and follow that structure, and so we just don't deviate a lot outside of that lineal structure, top down command is what we call it.
Anything like that?
Yeah, in recruit training, we understand we're getting individuals that have no exposure to that type of organization structure, and so that's part of the training is can this individual, this recruit, receive the information, the instructions, and execute it within the reasonable amount of time. And we have our program is very fast paced. We have a lot of material to cover in a very short amount of time. Even though it's 16 weeks, we have a lot of things to go over because we are starting from the very beginning. And so with that, the expectation is that we are going to go ahead and provide you with information, provide you with the resources and the direction to get it done. And if there's any time that it doesn't meet to our expectations, we do have high expectations, and that's because that's what the citizens of Seattle actually expect, right? They have an emergency, they call 911, and they expect reasonable and competent firefighters to show up to mitigate their issues, and that's what we're trying. That's our goal and mission to produce. And so when there is a deviation from that, we have to correct it, and we have to correct it at that moment. And sometimes those corrections can seem harsh. They can seem very abrupt if you're not used to it. But that's how we learn, right? We learn from the mistakes that we take on. And sometimes people have a hard time adjusting to that. But the ones that are successful in our program take that information and be able to compartmentalize it and figure out what they need to change and then execute what our expectations are. We try to provide as much feedback as possible, but with that, it can be very quick and concise. And so we need those recruits that come in to take that information, not take it personal, and figure out how they can apply it to the next opportunity they have for the evolution that they're being evaluated or being trained to then be evaluated on.
Okay. Based off of the info that Captain Bernal mentioned, can you tell us about your experience going through recruit school?
So my experience is just a whole new world for me. I had never done anything like this, and the paramilitary aspect of it was something completely new. I appreciated it, even though it is stressful and kind of jarring, because like I was saying before, like I had never had any kind of experience before this. I appreciated it because it really drives home the importance of our job. We hold people's lives in our hands, and that's something you should take seriously and not something taken lightly. Like you shouldn't have to hold my hand through this stuff and baby me to get me to do my job correctly. Like I need to understand that I need to make decisions quickly and concisely and to do my job to the highest standard possible because it's the difference between life and death. So it was a big change. It was incredibly rigorous and incredibly stressful, but it's an experience that I am so glad that I went through and would never want to give up.
Captain Bernal, you mentioned that you have high expectations for the recruits. So what is the expectation for operations when they go into probationary firefighting?
Yeah, so in recruit training, we have high expectations, and that's because we're trying to expose the recruit into areas that they might encounter out in real life. When they enter probationary, the remainder of their probationary year on the companies, it's no more training. It's actually, we're dealing with real life people with real life situations that can shift and change at a moment's notice. And it's very important that those recruits and those fire companies react to those situations properly for the best outcome possible. So actually the expectation is actually increased because now we have one shot to get it right. Here on the drill court, if you have a bad day on the drill court, well, guess what? Tomorrow you have an opportunity to take those lessons and improve on them. When we have a fire on the real world, on operations, that's the chance we have, and we have that one shot, that one opportunity to improve that situation, and that's our mission. Our mission is to show up, to stabilize that incident, and give those individuals that are in peril the best opportunity and chances for survival.
So as probationary firefighters, they're actually going on real calls.
Of course, yeah, and that's the whole point of recruit training, is to get them prepared for that, and that's why our standards are really high, because we know when they leave here, it's life or death, it's serious, and we get one shot. We learn on operations, we learn from every call that we go on, so that way the next call, if it's harder, we can apply those lessons. But the emphasis is that once you leave here recruit training, you only get one shot to get it right, and you better get it right.
So Firefighter Rogers, when you went into probationary firefighting, out to ops, so to speak, you mentioned that you didn't have any firefighting experience before.
Yeah.
So what was it like?
Incredibly exciting, and very nerve-wracking. I remember my very first call was an aid call, which in my opinion isn't one of our most super stressful calls. It's still a very important call, but my heart rate was through the roof, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's a real call, let's go. And I just wanted to go out there and apply all the things I had learned in drill school and do well, because I knew that someone was having a really bad day and we were the people who were coming to fix it. And that there's a very high expectation, and I wanted to meet that expectation. So I continued to study really hard all through probation, and drilled as much as I could, because I wanted to meet that standard that we set as SFD members.
Can I make a quick point? I just wanted to add too, I don't want people to think that we're just going to shove them out there into the real world and expect that they're going to perform as if they're a 10-year or 20-year vet, right? We are not going to send you out of drill school to operations, which is what we call the real world, to operations, without you being prepared to do the basic functions that you're going to be expected to do. We grow from that, right? So we grow from day one of drill school into the minimum standard that we want someone in operations. And then from day one out in operations, and that's a whole new path of growth. But you're going to go out there with the skills necessary. If there's a fire right off the bat, which has happened, a lot of people will go out there, and I'm not lying to you, within 30 minutes of their first shift, they'll go out to a fire. And guess what? They perform exactly as they did in drill school, and they're successful. And from that, they grow, right? Because now we got a real world. They'll learn from that, and then they'll add that to the next call and to the next call. But you will go out there prepared. It's not like we're just going to send you out to the world expecting that you're going to know everything.
So recruit school is challenging, and not everyone makes it through. From your past experience instructing recruits, what are some of the things that recruits struggle with?
So one thing that I have noticed that recruits struggle with is just overall preparedness, right? And whether that's being mentally prepared or physically prepared. And also, too, they struggle with our learning curve. It's a very steep learning curve. It's a fast-paced program. Like I mentioned before, we have a lot of things to cover, and they might be basic skills, and we have a short amount of time. And so some recruits have a hard time keeping up with that pace. Definitely the ones that come into the program not having any exposure, any experience, given this opportunity, they do struggle the most. So we try to encourage anybody that is thinking about entering this type of program and that gets an invitation to do their homework, do as much as they can to prepare. Anything else?
No, I think you're right. I think you'd be surprised how many people don't do their homework coming into this job, and they show up, and some people have withdrawn from the program, and they'll tell you, I didn't know it was like this, right? So yeah, do your homework, find out, ask questions. What I see from my end is there's lots of people that have never been pushed, right? And so these gut check moments is what I call them, right? Where you got to learn to dig deep, right? And some people have never been in that situation before, and we put you in those situations purposely because we want you to experience that. We experienced that out in the field. I personally was with Brandi in one of her first fires, and before we actually got to the firefight itself, she was carrying 200 feet of hose on her shoulder, I don't know, quarter mile up and down hills in the hospital district in Seattle. And then she sets the lines down, her partner sets the lines down. Now they have to set it up. And they were beat. And I just remember telling them, dig deep. Then we went into the building and actually did the work, right? And so we want people to experience that. And so a lot of people come in not knowing what that's like. And sometimes they find they're not as physically fit as they thought. So it's good for them before they come here to know what that's like. You know, push yourself further at the gym, run a little bit harder than normal. You know, so that you're ready for that gut check, because it will happen.
In addition to that, too, I think recruits don't know how to prepare week in, week out with recruit school. So that's also thinking, not only pushing yourself at the gym, but also figuring out how is your recovery going to be at home while during the weekend getting prepared for the next week. I think the individuals that really do struggle and maybe don't make it out of the program are the ones that are just clinging on and saying, okay, they're going week by week, and not having a plan and not put into play the advice that is maybe given to them from the recruit instructors, because we try to our goal is to guide them through this process, and if they listen, great. If they don't, they're going to have a difficult time.
Firefighter Rogers, anything you wanted to add?
I think that's a really good point on the rest and recovery thing. One thing that I always share with incoming candidates and recruits is to have either some kind of support system or plan in place, so literally so you can get through it, because you're going to be exhausted every day and you're going to come home and you don't want to have to do a whole bunch of tasks because you're going to get burnt out. You're not going to be able to make it through if you don't do that. I had a really good support system. I was still living with my parents at the time. So when I came home, my mom made dinner, my dad did my laundry, and I could study and shower and go to bed. I didn't have to think about those other everyday tasks. It took a load off of my plate, which I think was extremely helpful, because I know that would have just been it doesn't seem like that big of a thing. It's just laundry and cooking, but that's just another task added to your plate when you have all these things you got to think about. There's a lot to study, and there's a lot to learn, and you're drilling 10 hours a day, and it's just constant drilling, and you're beat. So having that in place is paramount.
So we mentioned how challenging recruit school is. Can you walk us through what a week looks like in Recruit Academy?
When I went through, Mondays were basically test days. So we would go in and we would get tested on the IFSTA book and the BSM, so our basic skills manual. And then after that, we had some time to practice a few skills. There were a few instructors that were there to help us practice anything that we wanted to work on. And it was kind of more like a half day that day. And then Tuesday through Friday was focusing on whatever that week's RST was. So say it was 2.5 up and in. On Tuesday, you get introduced to the drill and the instructors would show you how they wanted it done. And you would be given skill sheets. You're actually given all the skill sheets at the very beginning, so look over those. Don't ignore them. And So that day, you're not necessarily expected to have that memorized, but if you do memorize it, it's super helpful. So Tuesday you learn it, and then Wednesday and Thursday you're practicing it. And at this point, you should have that skill sheet memorized. And you're just drilling over and over again, doing that same RSTE, depending on if it's like the engine or the truck side, whatever it is. And you're gonna get tired, and you just gotta keep pushing through. It's a gut check. And then Friday comes, and it's test day, and you drill and you do your test, and then after you do your test, you do more drilling. And then you get to go home on Saturday and Sunday. Occasionally, you have Saturday sessions where you can get some extra practice in. Some firefighters come in off duty to kind of supervise you so you can practice. And then Sunday was mostly just recovering setting for me, and then it repeated over again.
So even after you've completed an exercise or what we call an evolution, it's common that you start helping reset for the next evolution for the next recruit, right? So how important is it to pull your own weight, so to speak?
You are a team in recruit school, and it is incredibly important to help pull weight and to help your teammates out. Or your classmates out. One, because you only get as many reps as you can set up for. So if you're going slow and you're not, doing your job, you're like, oh, I'm just too tired. Like, I need to take a second. Like, I'm not going to roll this hose. That's one less rep you're going to get because you wanted to, take extra time, and you might be messing up your buddy, like maybe that your partner didn't get a chance at it yet. Especially because we're going to bigger classes now, it's super important that we get this reset so that you get as many chances to practice as you can, because come test day, like you only get, 3 chances? Like, so it's one chance on test day, and you can try again that same test day. And if you fail a second time, then towards the end of the grind, there's like a retest week, and you get those 2 chances again. But if you fail that 4th time, you're done, right? So you get very few chances to get it right. So you want as many reps as you can get.
Anything you wanted to add to that?
No, we understand that there's a lot of physical work that goes into, and people are going to be tired. That's part of the preparation. That's part of the time that the recruit should be spending before they enter the program, preparing their body, eating correctly, getting plenty of sleep, hitting the gym, pushing themselves, as lieutenants stated, to see where those boundaries are. Because once they enter recruit training, the expectation is not only to work hard during the evolution, but to work hard on the pickup. Because that's how it is out actually in the real world, right? We're going to work hard, and then it's not like when the fire's out, who's going to clean it? We clean it up. So that's part of getting them exposed and trained up to be able to fit those roles. And so we can't emphasize it enough, is that you're being evaluated constantly. You're not just being evaluated when it's your turn on the nozzle or your turn on that saw. You're being evaluated constantly, because we want to see, are you going to be part of this team, or you're going to use this opportunity to self-preserve yourself. And out in operations, as we call it, right, in the real world, nothing happens by one person. Like no task is accomplished just by one person. It takes a team. It takes the organization. It takes that deployment of that full response to the whole amount of people. So all those cultures and mentality is pumped into recruit school to make sure that once they leave recruit training, they're going to be able to provide that resource to the companies.
So in the past, recruit schools were primarily taught by lieutenants with a captain supervising. Now there are many instructors that are experienced firefighters. What was the methodology in that?
So I don't know exactly when it was when we changed that methodology, but the idea behind that is the ones that are closest to the work are the ones teaching that skill. So we have firefighters come in as instructors. They're not part of the evaluation. cadre, but they're there to coach and teach the evolutions. And that's because that's their role out in operations. They're the ones that are shoulder loading. They're the ones that are doing the truck work, searching in those roles. So they can pass on the real world techniques along with the training drills that we've orchestrated, and so that they get the best opportunity for training and those opportunities.
No, I think it's great the way we currently have it. With the firefighters, the ones that are, constantly pulling the hose lines, shoulder loading, getting from point A to point B, and figuring out how to do that, are the ones that are actually out there on the drill court every day with the recruits, because they're getting it firsthand from someone that's actually doing all the time. The lieutenants, yes, we've done it. If I need to, I'll pull the line if I need to, right? I'm not doing it as often as say, Firefighter Rogers, right? I give an order, and then I have to, establish a plan. That's what my role is. So they're doing it all the time, and so they're getting it firsthand from someone who's constantly touching that stuff. From my aspect, I can coach, right? I've been doing it long enough where I may not be pulling the lines all the time, but I've done it, and I'm also taking it from a different perspective, and I might say, hey, you know what? If you actually back yourself into this angle a little bit more, it might work for you a little bit, right? And that's kind of my role, and my role is also to manage, the instructors and the students and keep things moving around. So,
Firefighter Rogers mentioned some of the testing that went into play, but can you go more into detail about what the recruits are actually measured on?
Well, so depending on they're measured on the RST, which is requisite skill task evaluation. And that is the skill sheet that they're assigned for that week. And they're just measured on their proficiency in that skill. And in some of those RSTs, there's also a time requirement that they have to complete that drill within that time requirement. So they're measured on a whole scale of their efficiency on pulling the hose, making sure that they're properly moving in a safe and organized fashion, that they're proficient in that skill, that they're calling out the commands that we need them to call out, and that they just demonstrating a full comprehension of that skill.
Anything you want to add?
no, there's an RSTE, which is a fancy word for test, that we have for that week. That's a very specific test that each week has. And then around that, we build other drills that they're practicing other things. But everything's getting evaluated 100% of the time, right? And so, like Firefighter Rogers mentioned, we provide you with all the tools you need to succeed for that test. Not only are there videos out there that you're able to see what that evolution that's upcoming is and what it entails, but you're given skill sheets and then you practice it as many times as possible before that test. But we're also evaluating other parts. We're evaluating how you're moving hose lines. If this may not mean a lot to some people, but how you're sounding ahead of yourself. How you're vocalizing. We'll judge attitude. How are you getting along with other people? We notice all those little things.
I wanted to get more about, or talk more about the evolutions. So, like on week 1, week 2, they're learning some very basic fundamental skills, but they're adding on top of that for the next weeks. So it sounds like it's very important to be really proficient with the things that are on these RSTs, because if you fall behind, then you're playing catch up the rest of the time. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. The way the drill school is designed is a crawl, walk, run, right? So when you first start, we will literally start what we call rig to door. Like we will stretch a hose line from the engine to the door of the building, and we teach you how to do that. And there's expectations that go along with that. There's time evaluations that go along with all that, right? And the following week, guess what we're doing? From the door to the seat of the fire, right? So we progressed from getting to the door to now we're getting to the fire itself. And so you can't forget what you did the week before, because we're building on those blocks. So it's important for you to continue getting reps, hopefully coming in on a Saturday to continue doing the things that you've learned so that you continue to build on those and become proficient at those skills.
That's great. Firefighter Rogers, you mentioned about teamwork, especially with your recruit class. Can you talk about how vital it really is, not only on the drill court, but studying or any other things that are involved?
So like teamwork and going into like preparing for stuff as well. Okay. So teamwork is incredibly important. It's one of our core values, because that's what we do out in ops is teamwork. Like we said before, like I'm not going to be out there doing a job by myself. And it's the way that we can get the job done most efficiently and most effectively. If I were to try to do every single job by myself, I wouldn't get it done and the house would burn down. I wouldn't save the person because I would get tired trying to do, lay all the hose, put out the fire, pull out the victim. Like someone's there to help me so that we can do it effectively and efficiently. And I think that goes into studying as well. We definitely had like little study groups on the weekends where we would meet up with people, like different classmates, and just go over like what that RST might be, memorizing a skill sheet, quizzing each other, so that we could be ready when we came back. And that even goes into probation, because you're going to be tested on RSTs and stuff like that throughout probation too. You have chief drills and things like that. And I remember going over to my classmates' houses and we'd throw up a video of a house on fire on YouTube and we'd pause it and be like, all right, give me a size up, and do that whole thing and be like, okay, you missed this. Like now you're knowing what you need to study, and so that you can start to perfect those skills and be that team member of just the Seattle Fire Department that the department and the city needs. It's really helpful, and it just makes it so that things get done correctly.
Now, I know that there's a part of it that's a competitive nature, just to compete with your fellow classmates, right? Mm-hmm. But how does that impact working as a team?
I think that we all understand that this is like, and we've harped on this is a life or death job. Yes, I want to try to get things done as quickly as possible and in the best way, and I want to be better than everybody else. But I don't want to do that over risking somebody's life. I'm not going to go and take the hose line out of somebody's hand that's actively putting out fire. They're doing what needs to be done. I'm going to go help them, because our job is to save lives, not to be the fastest and the person who is like the hero in the situation.
Anything you'd like to add?
You repeat the question.
In terms of personal performance versus a team environment.
Yeah. So personal performance is important, right? But overall, the team's most important. If you're in drill school and you want to be the top notch, you're going to get the fastest times, that's great. Can't do that at the expense of your team. That'll be noticed, and it doesn't matter to me whether you're the fastest or not. If you're not a team player and you're not accomplishing the mission along with your team, that will be looked at negatively, right? So, you can't focus on being the best at the expense of your group. It's just not a good thing to be a team. It goes against the whole concept of being a team player.
Well, one thing I want to emphasize is that, if there's 40 recruits starting, for example, 40 recruits are starting recruit training on day one, there's 40 spots waiting for them out in operations. So it's not like we only have 20 spots, and so you guys are in competition like an elimination reality show. So I think it's very important that those recruits showing up is that thinking like, yeah, there's a spot waiting for me, and how well I perform here will dictate whether I get that spot that's waiting for them. So that's very important. Also, as mentioned, it doesn't matter if you're the best. What matters, from my perspective and my evaluation, great, you did that evolution perfectly. And with so much time to spare, why aren't you not why are you now not using that momentum and sharing that with the other recruits that are struggling? Obviously, you figured something out as a recruit. Share that knowledge, share that experience, and boost up the team. So those are the type of mentalities and type of personalities that we really look for and try to cultivate. And if we don't see that, we'll start coaching and pointing those things out and saying, this is how we need you as a group to start thinking. Like for example, you 5 recruits, you're doing well. There's 5 recruits that are not doing well. They get together with them, or same thing, I give the advice, you 5 recruits are not doing well. Seek out the people that are doing well and figure out what is working for them and share that knowledge, because that's how we grow and get better out in the real world. Anytime that there's a hard call that I've been on, first thing people do is they call, it's like, how was it? Like, what was your experience? I did this well, I did this bad, I learned this and this and this. And now that officer or that firefighter has something to draw from that experience. And that's what we try to really hard to instill in the recruits coming through.
Yeah, and one of the things I tell people right off the bat is that nobody in that class is going to have 100% of the time. It's not possible. You can't have 16 weeks of perfection. It's just not going to happen. One day you may have 100%. Guess what's going to happen the next day? You don't know, but you could have an 80% day, 70% day. You're going to have to lean on somebody, right, to maybe help you get through that day, right? And so that's where the whole teamwork aspect comes in. You can't expect to be perfect. As much as I would love someone to be perfect 100% of the time, I understand that's not going to be possible. But how do you come out of that? How do you react to that? How do you all as a group come together to help each other through that? That's a big important part of the process.
Firefighter Rogers, I noticed you shaking your head in agreement. Mind to add anything to that?
Nothing really to add. They're both correct in that was something that we did on Saturday sessions. So like there would be some of the recruits who would come who had aced the test that week, and then the other people are coming because they failed. And we would get together and be like, okay, you passed. How did you pass? What did you do? This is what I'm doing. And then they'd be like, oh, that's where you're messing up. Don't do that. And those Saturday sessions were incredibly helpful because they're absolutely right. There are enough spots for everybody to get through. And so it's not about trying to push other people out. It's just trying to get everybody through.
And you mentioned Saturday sessions. Is that a requirement or is that optional?
No, Saturday sessions are not a requirement. That is 100% optional. But I highly recommend you go. It is extra reps, and it's in an environment that is not as high stress as regular drill school days.
Yeah, the instructors aren't there watching you.
Yeah, it's outside firefighters. It's not your instructors. It's other firefighters who are coming in to just supervise and provide tips. It's a lot more relaxed. You can slow things down, take it step by step, so that you can really get that skill down that you're struggling with. Incredibly helpful. I highly recommend it.
That's awesome. As we wrap up this podcast, is there anything else that any of you would like to add?
One thing that I felt like was incredibly helpful going into recruit school, because I had zero experience, was recruit prep and fire prep. I had no idea how to throw a ladder. I had no idea how to pull hose. I didn't know that couplings were a thing. So like going and getting hands on the material and being taught techniques on how to throw ladders, how to pull hose, put me so much farther ahead when I started drill school than if I didn't do anything at all. You can definitely not do it and go into drill school and still pass. It's just way harder because now you're trying to learn all these things at once, when it's like, okay, I kind of take some of the load off because I learned how to throw a ladder a few weeks ago. Now I don't have to learn how to do that. I can just practice perfecting how I throw a ladder.
So what was it like when it was time to go into live fire?
I felt very prepared, so I was pretty excited. I was like, oh, this is like the real thing. Like I get to practice all the skills that I've been learning and like put it to use, and being able to push down a hallway. So like my very first fire was they lit the kitchen in the back of the house on fire, and there was fire rolling down the hallway to the front door. So you opened up the front door and you could see it, and I was like, oh, this is it. And opened up the hose line, cooled down the ceiling, got the push, and I just did everything that I was taught. And it was trying to think of what the right word would be for it.
It sounds like everything just solidified there, right? Like everything just clicked.
Yeah, it was like a great feeling, because I was like, oh, I'm doing it. Like this is awesome. Like my training's paying off. So it wasn't. I personally wasn't scared. I was more excited because I was like, I get to do the thing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, that wraps up our podcast. And I want to thank our panelists for spending the time with us to share their insight and their knowledge about Recruit School. And as a reminder, Seattle Fire is accepting applications for entry-level firefighter EMT positions starting October 7th through November 25th, 2025. There are also several events potential candidates can participate to learn more about a career in the fire service. Be sure to follow us on social media and visit seattlefirejobs.com to join our interest list. And finally, please continue to tune in to our Fire Connect podcast series. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.